at Acute Trust as well. Passionate about innovation, so we do quite a lot of innovation work with the Northwest Innovation Forum, work with Rich Sawyer as well, on doing as I'm a peer reviewer as well for innovation. So always looking to learn and share learning wherever we can. And today I'm joined by my colleague Zara. Zara, do you want to introduce yourself briefly?
Yep, my name's Zara Parveen. I'm a finance business partner at Oldham locality and I work for Sarah.
So Zara's kindly joined me today because we've been doing quite a lot of work in trying to be more efficient in what we do. And I was just giving the analogy earlier to Ellie, doing presentations. I was sharing the screen, and I'm not that great at sharing screens. And we used to have an overhead projector for those of you who are old enough that may used to have one of them. And we used to have an acetate, and you'd have to write your PowerPoint on the acetate and show that on an overhead projector. And those days are now gone. We've now got PowerPoint and we're able to share, but I'm not moved with the times. I'd still prefer an overhead projector, maybe. So yeah, passionate about moving on and getting some innovation. Zara, can you move to the next slide, please, for me? And the next one. So just a quick overview about NHS Greater Manchester and how we fit into the overall Greater Manchester population. So within NHS GM, we've got 10 localities. 3.5 million people population. We're one of the biggest in the country. £9 billion ICB budget, and we have a number of quite big acute providers within that. And within the ICB, we have around 1,690 staff, which will reduce next year. The NHS GM finance function is about 160 transactions overall for the whole, and about 174 finance staff, and there's a central team. So within the localities, there's a finance team in every locality. And here in GM, we're the Oldham, so we're more on the east side of Manchester, bordering with Yorkshire. And I've got my own little finance team that are run with Zara. There's probably about 3 or 4 of us, and last year there was me and Zara, so we had to do something radical in order to get through and change the way we were doing things last year, because we had a number of staff off and we were just drowning with invoices, and thus the reason for us sharing our journey today. Each of the localities work in their own bit. We have our own budget, and then there's a GM budget, so there's variation that happens across all the localities, and I'll go through some of that as another example of where we're trying to reduce time to transact. So firstly, we're going to showcase the Oldham reducing time to transact, and for those ICB colleagues about who we are in Oldham and what we've done working with the local authority. And unfortunately, our local authority colleague can't be here today. So me and Zara are going to showcase that on their behalf. So over to you, Zara.
Thank you, Sarah. So I'm going to start by giving some context between Oldham and the council. Oldham is one of the 10 GM localities, and our NHS and council finance teams are co-located in the Spindles. That co-location gives us a real advantage when we're addressing shared challenges like improving transaction efficiency. We're operating across a sizable system. So it's a combined locality and council budget of around 422 million and a total health spend of about 900 million. On top of that, we jointly fund around 60 million of ASC and CSC services. With that scale, our processes need to be efficient, transparent, and aligned. Sorry, I'm going a bit further. So before March 2025, our approach to invoicing was extremely fragmented, just like Sarah's already mentioned. For each joint funded case, we used to get an individual invoice. So we used to have around about 200 individual invoices coming through each month. Each invoice, it was included the Section 117s, the continuing healthcare and children packages. it used to cause us a lot of problems because the balances never used to match what we had on the system. The system that Oldham use is Broadcare and the council use Mosaic. The two systems just don't integrate, and it leaves reconciliation quite hard to do. And it was because we had such a short team. There was only me and Sarah. We had loads of invoices to go through, and it was really draining, and it was causing a lot of problems. We were ending up working really long hours, and it wasn't really good for our mental health and well-being as well. And I think that's when we ended up with like 500 invoices in January that were on hold because we weren't getting a reconciliation between GM and the council. And then I think we just took a step back, and we reflected on what we can do, how can we make things better. So I think that's when the whole one invoice model come into place. It just showed us that the process that we currently had was inefficient. It was just burning time. It was just burning us both as well in the team, and it was creating unreliable financial data as well. And I think the mismatch wasn't just a number issue; it was costing us people as well. We had we had an equivalent of a 0.5 whole-time band 3 at the time in NHSDM, and then we also had a 0.5 whole-time in the council as well. We were working together to try resolving queries, but it just wasn't working. And I think when we focused on redesigning the process and we created the one invoice model, it really helped. And I think I would explain what the one invoice model is where we've got all the joint funded cases on one. So we only get one invoice raised each month rather than the 200 invoices. And we get a schedule from the council, which we are able to approve before an invoice is raised. So we do go through all the invoices, all the schedule, work through all the cases, and just be happy on both sides from the council and ourselves that it actually works. And then if there's any packages that we are disputing, then it'll go on to a dispute list. And I think it's building that relationship with the council. And I feel like now we have got a really solid relationship with the council, and it's really helped with the workload. I think I'm just going to go on to the next screen, the benefits of the one invoice model. So I'm not that good. I keep scrolling across. So we've got the cash savings. I think the process, by removing the 2,400 invoices, we have been able to save 12. So by able to reduce at 0.5 whole-time band 3, we are able to save 12,000 in just invoice processing. And we're also, I think it's given us, we've got less 2,400 invoices, so it's making us more efficient, and it's more of a smarter design to work through. There are also that cash flows also, we've got more control over cash flow, payments are more predictable and consolidated. We've got more accrual accuracy, the process is more cleaner, and it's easier to reconcile. I think there's more run rate reliability, there's a strengthening between the cost control and forecasting. And I think population health data quality payments are better aligned to activity across the system this way. I feel like the whole one, it's just we've got more control in place now, and we are able to use that in our advantage and be able to do because at that time when we were in that place of having loads of invoices, we weren't able to do our actual work and work on other projects, and now that's given us more space to be able to do that. And I think it's building that relationship with the council as well. Like with ourselves, with the Oldham locality, we have got a really good relationship with the council, but we know with other localities, because it's being we just need to make sure that we're consistent as well throughout the 10 localities as well, and learn from each other. And I know Tameside locality, they don't, they've got IPF. I think our next way would be going through an IPF file, but I think it's just being consistent as well. Thank you. I'll just go on to the next. Are you okay to go on the next one?
Yeah,
Sarah?
no, I'll do some. We'll do some questions, and thanks very much, Zara, because I know you lived and breathed this for a while, and it's been really important. You know, that the key taken is having that relationship. I know it's very simple and it's very easy, but we don't do a lot of it now. We're on Teams and there's home working, and having that co-location and just being able to walk over and say, I've got an issue. Can we look into it and work with the social workers? It's locking those issues down. It's also the agreement of balances has become so much easier. So our accounting is correct. And we can see on both sides now, which has been really important for that materiality and accuracy as part of the accounting principles that we have in place. So yeah, welcome any questions or anybody. I know there's a number of people from Acute Trusts in here who are on the call, but this can be applied anywhere. So is it David? David, have you got your hand up? Hi.
Sorry, schoolboy error. I was on mute. Thanks, Sarah and Zara. I guess my question was, so in some simplistic terms, I think what you've saying is you've transformed the process from hundreds of invoices with discrete backup kicking around somewhere in the universe to essentially a much improved source of backup data that there's discussion around, and then agreement as to what will, the figure that will go on the invoice. So I guess my question is, the cases that are in dispute, how do you deal with those? How does that differ from what you used to do? And how do you get those invoiced, so to speak?
Zara, do you want to answer that?
Yes, I will do. So we have got a separate schedule for the dispute. So every schedule that comes through, there's a dispute on there, it gets transferred to another schedule. The council keep a list of this, and so do I. And we go through it with regular meetings. We have scheduled 2 meetings within the month that we go through each dispute. And in order for us to go through that dispute, we found it easier to go through because we have this the CHC team and the council have the social workers. So we try cross-referencing emails to them or contacting them, and then coming to an agreement on value and what should be the right price that should be charged.
So what happens, David, there's a panel. So a case will go to panel, and it might be that it's agreed at panel between the CHC and the social worker. Say if Sarah needs a package for £2,000 and it's for 40 hours a week, 50 hours a week with respite overnight. And then the package gets put on each of the systems, and those systems need to speak to each other. What usually happens when they go and buy that package for that individual, they might need another hour. So the council might put that on theirs, but never tell our CHC team. So they're not working either together. So that panel process now, the minutes from the panel process get put on, and we say you've got discrepancy between your 2 packages occur now. And that discrepancy gets flagged really early and say, why have you changed it from when we walked away from the meeting and now it's another £30 an hour? We were disputing stuff for £5. Which was, there's a materiality element as well. When you go and buy that package, it might not be the market rate. You might have had to pay a bit more because the provider and suppliers weren't there.
So can I ask? I kind of follow the explanations, and this is on me rather than you two. But I kind of follow the explanations. But are you basically saying that you in the discussions, that allows you to then slot these cases back onto the
Yeah,
next month's invoice.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Yeah. And
so we've got a template. I've set a template up basically. Got a nice template that I'm more than welcome to share, that generates our accruals and what's in place and what's not in place, and gives you that forecast run rate as well.
Okay, so you're basically trying to manage the size of the pipeline for queries, get stuff out of query so that it can be invoiced, and there's a process and there's some negotiation there as well.
Yeah.
But by looking at the queries in the entirety rather than on an individual invoice basis, more efficient and more agreement, because I'm sure like you win some, you lose some kind of thing. So is that pretty much what you're saying? Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's absolutely that.
No.
It's very much an open and transparent process, but we're talking about individuals here that have got care packages, and we need to make sure that they're getting the right level of care and the right information on both systems. As we move forward with integration, it should all really be on one system, you'd argue, wouldn't you? But actually, we've got a third system, which is a mental health system, which is Paris, that the acute trust hold as well. So we'll have some Section 117s, and they've got a list of Section 117s, and have we got one list of Section 117s? So that's why we're working together and really being open and transparent and making sure we've got the right data, the right services for people now, and the right reviews are taking place at the right time. So there's a real, although this was a finance piece of work, what we've done is improve quality and made sure those reviews are getting picked up as well now as well.
No, thank you. That's really
helpful. You're welcome. You're more. Thank you for the question. Sorry, I can't see. Paula, hiya.
Hiya. I've got a couple of examples where I've done this in previous roles for previous NHS organisations.
Yeah.
So my first one was student bursaries, NHS student bursaries. So we used to pay out over 10,000 students' tuition fees.
Yeah.
And each of the universities would send an invoice for each of their students that were training to be doctors. We would receive 10,000 invoices in December. Wow. And that took a huge amount of staff to do it. They all had to be checked whether they were receiving the bursary in the first place, and lots and lots of things. So the way we turned it around was we engaged with the universities, provided the university with a list of, these are the doctors on our bursary system. You can ask for tuition fees for these 10 people, and we want one invoice from you for these pre-approved 10 people. You can then say, well, what about X, Y, and Z? But for now, we want just the 10 people. And so we knocked it down from 10,000 invoices down to around about 100, which is a massive saving. That was the first one that we did. Then secondly, I worked for Lancashire Teaching at several years ago.
That's right.
And we changed, is it?
Yeah.
Well, we changed the pharmacy invoices that we received. So this is the opposite way around. You know. What do you know then?
Because you used to work. It was getting recorded, so I can pick up with you, Paula. But yeah, we've done quite a lot of work at Lancashire Teaching on the pharmacy.
So I was in my previous role. I set up the Excel spreadsheets that received all of the pharmacy invoices.
Yeah.
And then condensed it all into, concatenated it all and said, this is actually one we want to process for whichever pharmaceutical company. And again, we reduced it from about 2,500 invoices down to 40 or 50. And you can still do that weekly, but we don't seem to be able to get it in at the NCA, which is a far, far bigger organisation.
That's massive, yeah.
And I can't seem to get the drive to do it here, and I don't know why.
Yeah, and that's a shame, isn't it? Because this is so important. You know, once you get the basics all working right and fundable, you know, for getting the basics right, the HFMA toolkit that came out a couple of years ago, and when I was at Lancashire Teaching myself a couple of years ago, you know, we really had to focus on reducing the time to transact. And then when I landed at Oldham, and we were just up there because we had a lower team, I was like, we can't continue to do this. We need to be radical. But it's having that permission to innovate, isn't it? And driving it through and getting that senior leadership to champion it. And I'll go on to that about what we've done at NHSGM.
Right.
as
Sure.
well.
Thank
So,
you.
but yes, I can share that with you as well. Jen?
Yeah, so pharmacy is one of my big issues.
Is it?
So I so my AP department I actually don't know how many pharmacy invoices we do, but we just have a lot. Some
Yeah.
days we'll have 300, some days we'll have 10, but we are struggling because we use a scribe as well.
Yeah.
So our process is very long-winded, so very paper-based. So they come in, they put them on a scribe, and then they physically stamp them, sign them off, they come in the internal post over to us, they then get stamped in at our side, and then they physically input into Oracle. So for me, I'm looking for a way around all of this. And I suppose that's why I've come on to see who else does what with
Good.
masses of invoice. So we've got pharmacy, we've got catering, that's very manual. There's got to be a workaround that suits everybody. So what we can't do is a one upload on an Excel.
Right.
So I can do that and get the statements and upload them, but we need the invoices in Oracle for the backend as well.
I don't
So-
think, do we?
Well, we've got to keep them somehow, but we're fine because of some of our other processes like back runs and
Right.
just all the processes. It's a nightmare when they're not in the system because you've got to then go and
Okay.
try and find them. And we did that with NHS property and it failed miserably. So NHS property, we are going down the route of consolidated invoices. So we're doing that where possible, but it's where we can't get consolidated invoices. What other people do? Because there's got to be a solution out there
There
somewhere.
must be. Absolutely,
I've seen
completely agree.
catering invoices for 10p for a tomato. It's
Oh,
costing
we have
way
them.
more.
We've had them for a penny and 2 pennies, so it is ridiculous.
It is ridiculous, isn't it? And that's the thing. I was speaking with Ellie before that I'll jump on to my next bit of a showcase that we've been doing as well that's a little bit bigger, because in everything we do we've got to challenge the norm. And I said to Elle, have we got like this, like a chat somewhere that you can throw a problem on and say, is anybody doing this for the whole of the NHS? And I think we have got that somewhere, and we do it through the Innovation Forum, through Rich, but I think it's throwing the problem out there. I know there'll be a solution to that problem somewhere. Somebody would have done it, and hopefully the person who's got the hand up now will have the answer.
Yeah, so Sarah, you're
so-
absolutely right. There is a forum for you to type in your question.
Yeah.
And so it's on the One NHS Finance website. It's
It
the
is.
sort of like the innovation AI chat bot. So it's really good. But yeah, there's only a limited amount of people who've submitted innovations. So hopefully there's one that might be able to help. But yeah, there's also its own forum as well. So which I'm a part of. So if you do have a question, do let me know and I can pop it in the innovation forum to see if there's anyone there who may be able to help.
Yeah, and I think that's the innovation library. But if you haven't got the question already on there, I think this is where it's, if no one submitted that innovation, how do we get it moving? So interestingly, the Northwest Innovation Forum, and we've got Microsoft, because we're using Copilot quite a lot here, which is great, but there's a lot that can be done, and they're offering expertise, and you can get the expertise of how to solve a problem. And we're doing a little bit of it in GM. So I think that innovation forum is kicking that problem out and seeing whether anybody can come forward with it. And if it's refined within the innovation and an innovation peer review hasn't been completed, or it's in that library, it might be somewhere else that someone is actually doing it. And I'm going to jump on to my next session where I've just done this, and actually, if I'd done it a year ago, could have saved a lot of problems for a lot of time and efficiency. To the next showcase, we're going to a bit of a show is the ADHD ASD, and it's for all those ICBs as well. And this is reducing the time to transact. We've done a similar methodology of how it's worked. So Zara, can you come on to the next question, the next showcase? So this is one that I've been supporting in GM. ADHD ASD right to choose is costs are going up exponentially. It's around 7 million year on year, and for GM we're looking at a 15 million overspend. It's going up nationally, and it's happening across a lot of the ICBs. But We've got a problem where with 10 localities, we're big at GM, ICB, around 400 invoices a month will come in from the same provider to different localities. We've all got different ways of processing. We then ask for backing 10 times. We then have variation and approval. Then some invoices will go on hold. So we had about £1 million on hold last month, a couple of months ago. Variation in accrual management, some were putting accruals in if it was coded, if it wasn't coded, so we didn't have enough accrual in, some we had too much accrual in. And then we didn't know about the data intelligence, who we paying for, so we could have paid for Sarah Naylor once and then we could be paying for her again because I might have gone for another ADHD assessment for a second opinion. So I might have had 2 ADHD assessments, and then we've got data in was just coming in the invoice, so we weren't getting back in data. So there's a real variation across what the same providers were doing, and these providers do it nationally as well. So what we've tried to do in Oldham, we just had no grip and control across GM, sorry, and in Oldham specifically, we were experiencing an increased overspend. The run rate was just going up and up and up. It was like a chart like that. And we raised the problem within GM, and I took on the chalice with it, and we're just getting over the hill with it, and it's been really, really challenging to move. And I think this is another point that I wanted to make through this showcase, is about culture and change culture and moving, and just that permission to innovate and going for it. Zara, can you go on to the next slide, please? And I'll tell you what we had to do. So everyone had the budgets and the localities, and we didn't know, everyone had different variation of budgets. So we've moved them centrally. Now, to get from a locality budget to a central budget, you've got to get that approved by the budget holder. So we had a big governance stream we had to do. Number one, try and centralise budgets in a big organisation is difficult to do in the first step. And then we've been contacting providers to say we just want one invoice now. We don't need 400 invoices a month, so we're gone down to 35, from 400 to 35. And then all the invoice backing going to one invoice, one email address, because they were going everywhere in different spread. And then this is the key important thing. This is learning from another ICB. So I found Sussex ICB, and one of the providers, through working with the providers and having that direct relationship with them, they've said, oh, we already do one invoice for Sussex. So I was like, right, I'll get on the phone to Sussex then and find out what they're doing. And they have a data landing platform where all the automated data goes. They pay 1/12 of the contract, no invoices, and then do a quarterly reconciliation, which is in the service condition, by the way, of NHS standard contract that we just weren't doing. And then working as triumvirate with those commissioning, contract and procurement colleagues. We never really speak to each other in a big organisation, do we, across the different departments? And we then got that exec ownership, that permission to innovate and really go for this, because we can't continue the way that we were. And that's called closing the gap. And what we've been able to do is put indicative activity plans in place now with those providers, and making sure we know what the spend is going to be, the accruals, reduce the volume of transaction. We've got much better intelligence and data about what's happening in GM as a market for ADHD referrals, because we've got a big waiting list as well. And you've probably seen this on the BBC News, any of you who've been watching it, if you're in the Northwest or nationally. Big issue at the minute is ADHD, and it's right to choose. So people have got the right to go and get an assessment, and we have to pay. So we're enforcing the contract regulations now, and this has been like one of the biggest things that we've had to really push for in GM. And I think another number of other ICBs may have already been doing this, and we just weren't in that space because we were continuing just doing what we were doing. And that for me is the key learning. Can you just go on to the next slide for us, please, Sarah? Is to do any big change or try and force that through. It needs a program management approach. Just to go big bang and move stuff, you've got to get people on board, and you've got to secure that exec buy-in. So I know, Paula, you were saying that, is there a route to share that and say this is just like really inefficient? We need somewhere to go here in an organisation. And we've been championing that, myself and Zara, you know, and across GM, and I'll go on to how we've done a bit of this. And then working with colleagues and then learning from others. You know, somebody will be out there who's done something. Don't try and think about the solution yourself, because do you know what? Somebody will have it there. And that's what I found. Is if I'd gone to Sussex 6 months ago, life would have been so much easier for us all, and we probably could have controlled the spend. And really celebrating those benefits and really getting that over the line. So I've got a really good relationship with our senior management team here in GM, and Kathy, our CFO, really champions that innovation and pushing forward for change. So we're really lucky. And we've been brave, you know, we've challenged the norm, and we're challenging everything that we do. And we can't move forward and innovate if we don't do this. And that's about culture. It's about getting everybody on board. And I'm sure that Zara will say that we probably were in a bit of a rut in Oldham about what we were doing. And you get stuck in a rut and people are churning. So my experience of being at Lancs teaching and going through turnarounds and being in acute, you know, we had a no PO, no pay process, that we had a discretionary control because we were in turnaround, and every morning and afternoon we'd go through every single PO that came in, and there'd be a team of us going through. And like you say, there was 10p for tomato. You'd have a diary for £2.21. Why would you want to process an invoice of £2.21? So it was reject. So everything had to go through a central workflow, and then we'd go into that workflow and we'd say approve or reject and let it go on. But we would get, what was really interesting, we were buying IMAS for maternity wards, which was really, you know, great, because if you've just had a baby, you want to sleep, you need, and the lights are on. But could have that been funded through charity? And we were able to get some of that charity funding to divert that core funding that was happening that we didn't really know. And that was a painful process, that we had a rota every morning and every evening and afternoon, and we all hated it. But what it really did was actually showcase where we were having spend going out the door that could have been more efficiently bought. So every division was buying paper. So some paper van was just driving around, just delivering paper to different departments. Have a paper store, just go to the store and buy your paper. So there are things you can do, you know, looking at those individual transactions. And I know sometimes we overlook it, but ask the question, how many invoices do we get? What's the spend? What's the de minimis value of an invoice we should actually pay? Because it actually costs around 25 quid per invoice to do one invoice, if you think about the whole process. So that's where we've been, you know, my experience from being at Lancs teaching as well, and having that experience, I've brought it here and champion it through GM. So I'm going to shut up now. Has anyone got any questions on that, or no? Okay. Just conscious I've been speaking quite a lot, and there's a lot in there, but I you know, I would welcome some feedback if there's any questions on anything that we've done. George, go on, George. Thank you.
I'm happy to ask a question. So
go on, please do.
No, it's just, so thank you very much. It's great to hear that the improvements that have been going on with, I guess, the methodologies and the changes in the processes. I guess when it comes to actually the creation of like the invoices that you do, is that right? You do create the invoice yourself sometimes and send them off. Have you been able to automate that process yet, or is that still quite manual with people?
I think it's quite manual. I think there's a lot we need to do in NHSGM. And that's why I think we need to share the learning even more so now with the NHS reform, and we need to start really championing what we do, you know, and working as finance community, you know, we need to share the learning. We're all in it together, aren't we, you know, and I think it's you get quite a lot of teams who will just continue to do what they've always done.
Yeah.
That's really interesting, isn't it? It's like, why would you want to sit there processing 100 invoices? It must be mind-numbing.
Well, yeah, I know we've got our finance apprentices have a role of doing the monthly fixed income, like salary recharges to other NHS organisations. It's like, so what we're doing it monthly, you know, can't we? Right. And we've got three individual ones going to the same organisation. Can we maybe just put them all together, as you say, monthly, or maybe an annual one, like to do that process once,
and you can do cash flow.
Yeah, it depends on how we want to do our cash flow. But I'd love to hear feedback on what's the negative about doing an annual invoice rather than a monthly invoice. But yeah, so it's good to pose these questions. To maybe simplify things a bit.
I'm not a financial accountant. I've never really gone into finance account. I know there's a split divide, isn't there, between management and financial accountants. I'm in the management accountant bag. And I'm sure our financial accountants between us would actually say there'll be a reason why you can't do it. I think cash flow would probably be the big one, but I don't know on the size of the cash flow. But yeah, always a question, isn't it, to pose? And I think, do you know what's really important with some of this? You need to get audit view as well, don't you? Because you know, when was it you, Paula, who just said earlier that you need that back, you need that invoice, do you? I don't know. Is it for the audit? Is that why we need it? I don't know. And it's asking those questions, but I would be challenging.
We just provided the schedule at Lancashire Teaching. There's the 20 invoices that we would have processed. There's the one that we have.
Yeah.
We engaged with the pharmaceutical company and said, this is what we'd like to do. When we pay you, instead of paying you and showing you 20 invoices on a remittance advice, we're going to send you this manual spreadsheet that was pivot tables and all the rest of it. But we'll send you this spreadsheet that says your payment on the 20th of November with the reference PM1 is actually relating to your 20 invoices, that these were your references to start with. So we had the full transparency, and you've reignited my desire to do this again, because I looked at how many invoices the NCA process for 14 pharmaceutical companies. I just picked 14 out, and we processed 110,000 invoices in a year. So it's huge.
It's huge. I'd be putting that forward to
and it's gone again.
Suzanne.
I've gone back again.
Well, hopefully you might be able to support some of that today with how we work as a system and share that learning in GM.
You could put it on an IPF file, like how we put an IPF file, and it indicates which invoice you're referring to. So we've got IPFs on our side to do it.
I'm going back.
And this is where the trusts and they are different beasts in terms of what we do. But you know what? This is just basics, is what we're talking about today. If you get your basics right, you free up time to get your data, and you can do some more nice, exciting stuff, can't you? You know. So yeah, David, conscious you've got your hands up. Apologies to keep you waiting.
No, it's okay. It's just really an observation rather than a question. So I'm picking up loud and clear the importance of the human side of things and organizational culture. And, you know, just on some small scale projects we've done, often the politics and the cultural side is harder than the technical side to solve. And it just struck us that a lot of the behavior is rooted in things we find comfort in. So, you know, the fallacy, like one invoice, one set of backup, that kind of thing. And it just struck us that particularly if you're dealing with external suppliers, sort of taking them to the pain and pointing out the reality is, you know, we end up with loads of invoices in query that don't get paid. You know, you have to put a lot of time on it. We have to put a lot of time on it. And I'm just thinking about my time in an NHS body where, you know, I don't want to upset anyone saying this, but this was my experience, that the accounts receivable team didn't mind stuff going into query, because when it went into query, responsibility passed to the management accounts team. So there was almost like a perverse incentive to like not fight anything going into query, because then accounts receivable didn't have to chase it. And I remember having a bit of an argument through my line manager saying, I've resolved the query, it's not for me to chase, it goes back to the AR team. And she was like, yeah, 100%. So, you know, you've got these perverse incentives in the system. And I think it's kind of shining the light on that with your external suppliers, that look, the system really isn't working, because look how labor intensive. And I guess if you can get them to accept that, then the solutions kind of grasped a little bit more readily rather than being pushed back.
Absolutely. And you know what? That's been my experience with the ADHD one. You know, phone people, pick up the phone and go and have a conversation rather than email. And actually, we've got really good relationships now where they're saying, oh, no, we welcome this. We've been waiting for this for ages. And it's like, well, okay, why didn't you say? So, you know, the providers are actually saying, well, actually, in Devon, we do something different, and they're sharing that learning with us, you know, and they've got better IT and access and get governance through quick, and they're like, gets our cash flow moving.
Yeah.
So there's a win-win on both sides, and I think the importance going back to that, the culture, and it always reminds me of the AR and the AP team. I was like, you're just one team in management accounts, but they'd sit in separate different parts of the office, you know, when we were all in the office years ago. And never the twain would speak, would they?
Yeah.
Bizarre, isn't it? The way, but we're all like one finance community, and I think that's about leadership as well, get the culture right as well, isn't it? So yeah. Oh, do you know what? It's great the feedback that I'm getting from you all, and it's like we need a reducing to time to transact forum nationally somewhere, you know, to throw these problems around. So I'm going to can you jump onto the next slide for me, please, Zara? So what have we done in GM, and I'm quite passionate about leading this, and we've set up our own little GM innovation team. There's a little bit of a board where the problems get thrown in. So we have, you know, minor ailments. I think, wasn't it, Zara? We were paying like £3 an invoice for 80 odd invoices, and it was like, why are we doing this? You know, and that's where we've moved to an IPF file, which is just like a quarterly file of transactions. It can be uploaded into the system. So that's what an IPF file is. And trying to get all the locality standardized in what we do. So ADHD invoices was on here originally. We have a number of Section 12s, which I do need to reach out to anybody across the NHS finance communities. Anybody else nailed Section 12s? We get probably about 700 invoices a month coming into the ICB, where a doctor has been out, a consultant psychiatrist, and has done a Section 12 assessment. So you'll get individual invoices from those. They're not employees, the consultant psychiatrists out of work time doing this assessment. And apparently Liverpool and Cheshire and Mersey have done it, but you've got to buy a system, which is 90 odd grand. So it's like, well, is there any other better way we can do it? For me, it's easy expense, but apparently we can't do that. So we do need to throw that question out there nationally. But here, this is what we've set up internally. So there's a few of us of all different grades, and every project's got a project management approach where we have a little bit of a PID, a bit of the benefits, and then we all kick the tires on the solutions. So it's like, well, what do you do? Why do you do that? How do we get through it? What do we need to do? And that reports up to the innovation program board that I've got after this, actually. It's stopping and starting. I'm not saying it's a great, but it's a framework. And then that goes up to our GM system finance leads, where we report up to our senior management. And then we share that with the innovation forum, and then share with the One NHS innovation forum. Thus how we've got here today as well. So we've got a number of projects going on how we can be more efficient across GM, and then we've got like a virtual suggestion box. So Paula, where you were going through and saying in NCA, if they had this type of a virtual suggestion box to go in, that gets picked up and we go through it. We haven't had that many. So again, it comes back to culture. We need to start driving it and reminding people to share the problem. And culture is obviously sometimes the blocker in innovation and change, because people don't want to change what they're doing sometimes. And if you say, right, I'm doing 500 invoices, that might be somebody's job, full-time job.
That was certainly the case at student bursaries, because 5 people used to get overtime in December when all these 10,000 invoices are received. And they loved their overtime for Christmas.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I really wasn't popular at the time, but it was so efficient.
And this is where we need to challenge, you know, there is work, you know, when saying that. So this is what we do, bit of the innovation form that we've got going. It's a test and change. It's not fully up and running. We're trying to get there. But yeah, it's a little bit of a forum where we can start changing that culture and that innovation and that approach to innovate, you know, internally. So it works at the minute. We're having a go. It gives us that framework, and it's really exciting when we can do stuff that's not planning or run rates or returns to NHSE or anything else that we have to do that's urgent every day. This is nice stuff to do. Has anyone got any questions about that or any feedback? No. Was that okay, Sharon? I'm just thinking, you know, sometimes when you try and do an innovation, you're like, it's not really an innovation. It's probably somebody else is all doing it. But actually, when you do get on calls like this and you start hearing from other people, it's really welcome to say that we're not all there in the right space yet, and we probably need to start moving in the right direction. You know, so it's great that people have took the time on to come and listen to me and Zara today. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Can I have a chat with you, Sarah? Sarah or
Of course
Sarah?
you can.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Sarah, Sarah.
well, I'm on leave. I'm going to Jersey. Well, were you on when I said I was going to Jersey?
Oh,
Is
no.
that me still recording, Ellie, and telling everybody what I'm doing for my birthday weekend?
Hang on. Yeah, I can stop recording now. Hold on.
Thank you. So yeah, you can do next week, Paula, by all means, absolutely. Be